more and more of our time are spent online, our digital consumption is increasing. Digital banks, streaming of music and video, and digital healthcare are part of our everyday life now and takes more and more of our money consumed. Compared to the consumption of physical goods, digital consumption are rarely linked to any environmental burden. But is that really the truth? What do we actually know about it? During the past years, we have seen several headlines addressing this topic, describing the link between digital consumption and environmental footprint. We can learn that the YouTube video with the song Despacito have consumed 900 gigawatt hours, which is equal to the energy consumption in 5 African countries during 1 year. We can also see that the carbon emissions from streaming is equal to the carbon emissions from France during 1 year. But there are also facts that says the opposite. The International Energy Agency says that the numbers of streaming are highly overestimated. Again, what do we actually know about this? What is the fact here? To start with, we need to address and clarify there are no smoke without fire. And there are numerous of digital products that have been designed without thinking about the environmental burden. But calling out that all digital consumption is bad for the environment can't be the truth. But therefore, we also need all companies handling digital products need to be aware of the environmental burden, get specific insights on their detailed products, and understand the environmental footprint of it. Dimpact was founded by the University of Bristol and several media companies to demystify this topic that has so many rumors around it. The methodology for this is based on the outcome of these world-class researchers at the University of Bristol and their findings. This is taken into a calculation tool considering the full value chain of digital news, which means the content creation part, the distribution of information, and the consumption on the user side. It covers both the carbon footprint and also the energy consumption. And this gives detailed information to the media companies on what their actual footprint is and gives a basis and a fundament to take action on what's needed to be changed to be able to reduce this. By focusing on carbon emissions and using Schibsted's digital value chain for the digital news as an example, I will give you an overview how a digital value chain could look like and the main characteristics to understand this topic better. Schibsted's value chain consists of 3 different parts. The first part is the publishing infrastructure, which means the internal work at Schibsted that is needed to create content and publish content. That part stands for 10% of Schibsted's carbon emissions. The next part is the digital distribution, which means the distribution of information through the global internet network, through cables, through wireless connections, taking out information to the users. This part stands for 20% of the emission of Schibsted digital value chain. The last part is about the user devices, so the consumption of this part. So how users are taking part of content through their smartphones, through laptops. This is the majority of the carbon emissions that is generated. This stands for 70% of the emissions. Looking into the actual number of carbon emissions, we can see that the emissions of the total value chain of digital news for Schibsted in Sweden and Norway stands for 526 tons of CO2 emissions. A significant number if you look on it by itself, but put into context. Looking into and compare it with digital news in other countries that is outside of our Nordic low-carbon electricity grid, we have another answer. Compare it to how much emissions you have from flights, or break down these emissions on each individual users that is consuming digital news through Schibsted services. We can see that this amount is minimal. Anyhow, there are energy consumed and there are emissions here. And this is forming our, at Schibsted's, insights. What actions can we take to reduce our impact? And it's important to address here that most of the actions is and can be taken outside of Schibsted. It's outside of Schibsted's control, but that's also addressed the need of cooperation. Cooperation is needed between all the actors in the digital value chain to be able to reduce this. That's the first point. The second point that is important here is that we are taking responsibility for the actions that we can take that is within our control. And there are three main points that we have addressed as main actions to be able to address and reduce our impact. The first one, it's about principles. It's about how we're designing our products and ensure that we're minimizing the environmental footprint of them already from the beginning when we're putting them on the market. The second one is about nudging user behavior. Make it easy for our users to take decisions that is consuming less energy. And this is a tricky one because there might be contradictions with optimizing products for use and environmental footprint. For example, if we make our users spend less time using our products, we will save energy. But at the same time, we will have an issue in minimizing the societal impact by lowering the time people are consuming journalism, high-quality journalism. And here is a balance needed. And the last one, it's about the data that we're transferring, how we're optimizing that to ensure that we're not sending out data that is not needed by the user. It's about optimizing the page size. It's about optimizing the video bitrate and also not sending out data that is not used by the consumer. To summarize, and going back to the initial question, does digital consumption have an environmental footprint? And I think this shows, yes, it has, but it's limited in some cases. But we have things to do. The digital value chain is not designed with the environmental footprint as a focus. When taking actions of this, it's also important to be balanced. Balanced in terms of what type of emissions and energy that we are addressing. How much kilowatt hours can be saved? How much CO2 emissions can be saved? But also balanced in terms of how it's connected to other sustainability aspects, like the societal impact with high-quality journalism. But all organizations with a digital value chain have a clear task here to do, have a clear opportunity of finding new ways to innovate products, using the filter of sustainability and environmental footprint and develop products. So the answers are out there to seek. All organizations have their opportunities to find it and take actions, reduce impact, and meet the demand of a future low-carb society. Thank you.